good afternoon, wherever you're watching me from. This is Wendy Hotspot Show. Let's talk a little bit about what is going on in the news about TB Joshua, a Nigerian prophet or pastor with a huge ministry performing miracles all around the world. Unfortunately, he is now passed. We all know TB Joshua is gone, and may his soul rest in peace. Well, there's a huge news going on about TB Joshua from CBC. And a lot of Africans, I don't see Africans saying anything bad, but all good things, because some has had a direct, or I would say a personal contact with him. Some also have had a relationship, I would say some that in Africa it is expected, because there's a lot of there's a lack within the African continent. There's a huge lack when it comes to technology, in terms of hospitals and other things that people should easily access. It's not. So there's a lot of sicknesses and diseases. Poverty has made people to believe in everything in Africa. So when we look at the other hands, there's a lot of what TB Joshua has done. A lot of African pastors are also doing the same thing. Now, people cannot access a healthcare system. There's no healthcare system in Africa. So a disease that could easily be investigated and also be looked at the hospitals, these pastors would demand a whole bunch of things. Some of them, in fact, would go as far as blaming a family member for some illnesses that in the West can easily be detected and has a name for it. So there's a lot of things that in Africa people can easily believe in. So TB Joshua, to the Africans, he is a hero, because a lot of people received I would say benefits, things that are given by government in the West. TB Joshua has made himself available to a lot of fatherless, a lot of people who, would gift people that could easily be, if it was some part of the world, government would support. TB Joshua did all that. Now, we have to also look at the spiritual side of what TB Joshua, the miracles and assumed miracles, or I would say the things he did for people to actually believe in him. There's a lot of vulnerability when it comes to African people, okay? Africans like to see things that cannot be explained. The Africans are more into things that cannot be explained, where in the West it is explained as a medical condition. For example, autistic. There's a lot of Africans with autism who has autistic children who are pinning those autism. Medically, they cannot explain it. It is a myth. It is a mythical explanation. So in Africa, there's a lot of things that people, I would say, depends on the mythical and the magical things that, the magical things that are scientifically or medically, they can't explain. So these pastors are capitalizing, a lot of pastors are capitalizing on that. Again, I've never been to TB Joshua's church. I don't know, but I've seen many like TB Joshua. So I am taking the TB Joshuas alike who are currently in display in Ghana to speak about why Africans will not see this as a problem, because there are no other ways for them to quench their thirst. There are no other way for them to satisfy their hunger, their desire. The only way was for people to tell them what they want to hear. And in the case of TB Joshua, it is the same thing, and other pastors. So Africa has a huge lot. My loss in this is some of the Westerns, the westernized people who should have, again, why would I even say they should have known better? In this part of the world, the same way as in Africa, it is done in a different sense. There are a lot of people in the West, again, confused about, depressed for so many things. People who are searching spiritually. Like, for example, when gays were coming out in a system, a lot of rejections were actually, there was a lot of pushback for the whole generation to accept gay people. For example, there's a lot of also rejections, and also even in the Western world, there's a lot of rejections, and there's not much research into psychological and also things that has to do with psychological issues. The West world lacks spirituality. The Africans has the spirituality. The West world is all about physical. So there was a lot of also the westernized people who also fell in a victim to what the African pastors are actually doing when it comes to spirit, because there's a lot of sicknesses, anxieties, and bipolars, and other things that is health. There's a lot of health issues within the Western world too, which society or government has not necessarily been able to address. There's a lot of things that Africa is able to address, because there's no such thing as bipolar back in the days when we were growing up. There's no such thing as depression, because we are all mixed up in a community, in a society that everybody is accepted. We are all mixed up. So even when somebody is autistic, we called it Jimmy Jimmy. Back in the days, we were not able to identify autism or people with hyperactive disorders, people who cannot function without doing anything. They are fidgeters. There are so much health issues within this system that the government has medically researched. They cannot, either it is chemically imbalanced. So TB Joshua's, people like TB Joshua's has a market, a real market. In fact, if you work in the schools or in the hospitals, you can tell there are so many children that the system has referred to doctors that the doctors cannot even assist. They can't. They've done research, they use them as gimmicks. There's a lot of chemically, poisoned medication given to these children so they can sit in a classroom. There's so many women going through anxiety, depressions, that it has gone into different level. So TB Joshua has a lot of market. People like TB Joshua, because Africa, that is what Africa deals with. When it comes to health research, Africa is not there. When it comes to science, Africa is not there. So a lot of pastors are taking advantage of these issues. So you can have a simple infection that should medically be addressed, and a pastor will tell you it is your mom, it is your uncle, it is your auntie who is home somewhere, who is also struggling. I mean, the whole poverty system in Africa, it is man-made. Sovereign, whole poverty is a man-made. So TB Joshua, as you can see, a lot of white people also fell into it. There's a lot of old people in this part of the world who are, medically sick. They are home. They are not danger to the society, but they have a mental issue. There's a lot of people who we work with mental issue. There's a lot of people we walk on the street with mental issue. But in this part of the world, they give you medication to numb you, to calm you down. If you don't want medication, you end up on the street. You can't take a shower, you can't take a bath. If you don't have a family members who can help you. So these are the people, the mental challenged people that TB Joshua and other things that if you live in Africa, you can bear witness that the way nature is, nature speaks, nature is alive. Nature, the God Almighty, we keep referring to the supremacies, the supreme of supreme, the omnipotent, the omnipresent, the God, the good side, who has instilled in us, who has breath, who has put his breath in us, who has made us like him, gave us the tool, a power that a man has on this planet. And these are the powers that these people uses, okay? They practice and they build up the bad conscience side into a deep end that they can easily manipulate people with so many things. We are capable of so many things, but because we are in God's image and his likeness, some of us grew up nurturing the good side of our spirituality. So there is a darkness and there's a light to man, and whichever side nature brings you to, whichever side you are nurtured in, that is what you become. So there's a lot of nurturing. There's a serial killers that if you do research, there are people who are nurtured in a bad side. There was a gentleman who was given an account as to in Liberia, one of the Liberian pastors, and because he witnessed so many bad things, people murdering right in front of him, something clicked inside of him, some spirit, and we call it spirit because it is energy. Some energy took him and he became very bad. Another young man who was killing young children, he was only a small boy, 8 years old. Evil. There's so much evilness in this world. It exists. So TB Joshua again is one of those who could have nurtured that side of him and knew how to manipulate people. But to the Africans, you see, and some people may say he's dead. Why now? He's dead. So the African will not question the possibility of this man perhaps being what they said he is. The African has no time. The African has always been kept hungry. The African has always been kept wanting. The African has been stolen from. The African lacked so much that people like TB Joshua was able to fulfill that part. You see, the method of this Western people, the method they use to crack down serial killers, psychopaths, was things like TB Joshua. Mechanism. People, evil people knows how to be good to people. They are very, very cunning, very, very good people to the needy, to the one who is in need. So it is very possible, it is very, very possible that TB Josh knew how to play this game very well. Before these people in the West are able to catch a serial killer, some of them are in white-collared suit, some of them are your co-workers who is in the office. In fact, there was a scientist who was caught. By the time he was caught, he has already cleared some of his co-workers, a lot of people in the country, because he's a scientist, he's a medical science, and he was able to mix a whole lot of poisons, and by the time he was caught, he had already killed a lot of people. So there are a lot of possibilities, like these witnesses who has experienced a first hand of what TB Joshua, his miracles, his performance, that who he is. And when they talk about TB Joshua, when they talk about him, he was just like those people who had a secret all along, but nobody except for those people. And guys, it doesn't matter whether the person in this part of the world, there are cases that are 100 years old. Once they get the evidence and and everything to close the file, they will open up the file and to give peace to the souls, that went through, and also for research, okay, also for research, and also to discover how to avoid such incidents. They will open up those cases. So it doesn't matter whether TB Joshua was dead. It doesn't matter whether he died 100 years ago, 5 years ago. In the West, they will investigate it. And until when they come up with the result, trust me, an African can come to the West and okay and commit certain things, and when they catch you, yes indeed, you are going to be persecuted. So this is the whole gist of it, guys. Hi, can I have a medium hot chocolate, please? Make it hot. No cream on the top, please.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, it's gonna be 503.
Okay, guys. So to the Africans, the same. We are witnessing this in politics, where Africans would be defending the criminals. Okay, where we will be defending the criminals, because again, we've been made. There's so much that has been taken from us that, and any small goodness. Hi, how much?
505.
Okay. That any small favor is a huge favor in the African belief. Okay, so that is why I see a lot of Africans, what these ladies are talking about. What these men and women are talking about is a foreign to the Africans who does not believe in disclosure. Thank you. Who don't believe in disclosure. Jack, I am doing excellent this morning, I thank God. Who don't believe in disclosure, who don't believe in spending money on research, who don't believe in spending money to correct such behaviors, to have a safe and an environment that people will grow and be nurtured in a sense that gives everybody a safe environment. And I don't know, but if the possibility, you have to rule out all possibilities when you're doing research, okay? And from what we are seeing, and from what we've seen in within a lot of, Benny is one of them. He has been investigated, and there's a lot of clips and videos about Benny who is also a pastor, practicing a whole bunch of what kind of spirit would possess people to be fallen and to be out of their bodies, that they cannot control their bodies. What kind of a spirit that will possess a person to be injuring, to cause injury to themselves. I saw women falling. I saw women who were hurting, like inflicting self-inflicted injury at TB Joshua's church, where cameras were like, this white lady said when she left, she was, first of all, when the first encounter was for them to watch a very, very graphic, horrific video of some miracles that were being performed. Men in Africa with body boiled wounds and possessed and all these things. What kind of a spirit? But the African person understands that, because I've seen it here also. They will even possess you more. There are children going through psychological issues, but here they use practical, they modify things, and they use things that the child can be like, so they can to bring out the goodness out of that child, to actually grow the side of them which they can take charge and control of themselves. That is what the school system uses, and that is what some specialists, behavior therapists, all these specialists that are brought into the school is to identify children like that very early, so the behavior can be corrected. So they modify programs, they bring in programs that nurtures and also steers that person to a place where they themselves can own up to like their decisions, their actions, so they don't become something that society cannot handle. But in Africa, it is all spirit. So, and because we are spiritual being, when you tune your mind to that, your body is now taken over by these spirits. Like, I don't know how to explain it for you to understand it, but when the mind is a spirit, the mind and the soul, the spirit of a man must be in sync with the body. And because we are spiritual people, we are spiritual being, when your mind is into something else, you can see your body also responding to that thing. Your body becomes the object of that thing. Your body becomes the box or the vehicle for that thing to be used. So you will see that these people, look, people are falling, people are women, like, injuring their private part, hurting their private part, doing things to their private part at the church. Okay, so what do you think a man would give up for him or her to be able to perform such miracle? What do you think the man has given up in order for them to, because there's a price to pay in everything we do. So TB Joshua, to the African, is a hero, but to the West, just like every pastor, especially black pastors, are frequently investigated. Private investigators goes to the churches with cameras on. In fact, there are people who FBI would plant in the church, and these people uses devices that can never be detected, just like those pastors. There's a lot of white pastors that has been investigated, a lot of those big churches, all of them has been investigated. So to the African who is watching, it is only in Africa that pastors are not investigated. These Americans spend a great deal of amount of money because they like to correct their system. They like to take away what is foreign out of their system. So don't be surprised that TB Joshua is now being investigated. It could have taken them 100 years. It didn't really matter. And also the fear. These people who are bearing witnesses, perhaps because of the connection of TB Joshua, of course the system had to protect them. And the part of it is when to air those investigation. So it doesn't really matter. The people who matters was those who are speaking, and not TB Joshua, or not you, the listener. The people who matters the most are those who they've given a platform to, so they can speak and they can get the fear out of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter. TB Joshua is not the the tax. Sometimes it is a therapy for those who has gone through the traumas in the hands of these people. So they think about them the most when doing these documentaries. So the documentary could have been that it was done but aired after TB Joshua, because TB Joshua is a powerful man in Africa. And you see the defense of African, they will kill for TB Joshua, just like anyone will kill some people who are possessed, like some journalist who has taken on the responsibilities of a lot of politicians in Africa. Those people who are directly benefiting from politicians from these churches will kill. They will kill anything and anybody for TB Joshua's name. In fact, an African will not question whether it is true or not, as long as they are getting what the government cannot give them, what their parent cannot give them, they are okay. So this is why you are seeing this. This may be one of the reasons why you are seeing this today. May God bless you, and I hope you share the video. Thank you.